Happy new day and welcome to Head to Toe Healing Live. We are so happy that you're joining us this day, wherever you are in the world, or if you're watching a replay. Head to Toe Healing is a practice that Dr. Kevin Reese put together. It incorporates three modalities: mindfulness, nutrition, and posture. And today we're going to address questions from all those areas. But actually, our focus today is going to be on the topic of asthma. Unfortunately, this impacts a lot of people and makes life very difficult for them to function. So today I have on our panel of specialists, we have Coach Gingy, we have Coach Ryan, and soon Coach Sean will be joining us. But we're going to go ahead and get started. Coach Ryan, I wanted to pass the baton to you first and just get your perspective about asthma. I know it affects a lot of people. It affected me when I was a child, and it was very difficult. It's frightening, it's scary. Is there something people can do on a natural basis to cope with that or turn it around?
Well, yeah. And I also had asthma as a kid. It's pretty common as a kid, especially if you grow up on junk foods, because to me, that would be the number one cause is the bad foods causing intestinal damage and inflammation, which causes nutrient malabsorption. And it's one of the easiest things to reverse. I've seen it dozens and dozens of times reversed when they didn't even buy any products or anything. All they did was hear us talking about the bad foods, specifically about gluten, but processed foods in general. And so many people just got off those bad foods and got rid of their asthma, got rid of their COPD, many of them, chronic bronchitis, all kinds of, just chronic wheezing conditions, all kinds of lung problems, because your lungs, just like any other tissue, need a bunch of different nutrients, lots of them. And if you eat processed foods, first of all, you're going to be deficient in several nutrients to begin with. And you're going to screw up your digestion system and inflame your intestines so that it's harder to digest and to absorb what little nutrients there are in the foods.
Wow, that's amazing. I wish I would have known that information when I was a kid or my parents, because we went through so many different hoops through the standard medical system to try to find out solutions. I mean, it was like clockwork. Springtime and fall, every single time the seasons changed, it sparked my asthma to come about. I would be down for the count for a whole week, both spring and fall. It was really, really frightening. So I wanted to pop over to Coach Gingy next and just get his perspective. When somebody's going through something like that, where there's restricted breathing, I would imagine that it really plays havoc on the mind. Is there anything that you can share from the mindfulness perspective that would help people here?
Absolutely. And when you brought up the conversational topic of asthma, I was like, wow, the first thing I think of is how much fear and panic and, how scary the experience can be. Especially if you don't have an inhaler, if you don't, you're not prepared, or you're out in the middle of the woods, you're camping or something. Uh, and what's the first thing that they tell you when you're having an asthma attack? Calm down, breathe, slow, intentional breathing, those types of intentional practices. They're the things that help alleviate the immediate issues going on with asthma. So you want to try to relax your muscles, you want to try to breathe, you want to try to relax and move through the experience. But on the prior side to having the asthma attack, if you have chronic stress, that's going to increase inflammation in your body. And if you have, fear of the symptoms and fear that you might have an asthma attack, and you're anxious about the future and what potentially could happen, you're going to cause more constriction and more inflammation and more phlegm and increase the likelihood that you're going to have an asthma attack. So you have to incorporate the mindfulness perspective when you're trying to work with asthma, deal with asthma in the moment, or even trying to prevent an asthma attack, or even, when you're trying to just reverse the underlying conditions so that asthma is no longer a thing in your life.
Thank you for that. Coach Sean, with posture, I would imagine when people have maybe impingements in parts of their body, that may impact their breathing. How does posture play a role for somebody that has a breathing condition?
Yeah. So, in a crazy circumstance, one of the first asthma cases that we dealt with were actually, it was a pretty severe case and nothing was working for him. None of the nutrition, any of the medications he even took did not work for him. And what we noticed was that how his posture was aligned, he was basically collapsing on top of his lungs. And so his upper back and head and shoulders extremely rounded forward. And obviously that produced a heavy strain on his asthma, on his lungs. And so just from posture alignment therapy and putting the head back onto the shoulders and reversing that rounded back, we were able to get rid of all of his asthma symptoms. And so that's just about how we address any case of asthma. We address it posturally. We see what's going on with the posture and fix it from there.
That's awesome. Well, with that, it made me think of today. Everybody's looking down at these little things all the time, or their tablet, or they're working on their computer, and they're not as upright and they're not walking around the earth the same way they used to. I would imagine that plays a huge role for people as well with asthma. What's your thought on that? I mean, are there little things people can do every day while they're still doing these tasks? They're kind of addicted to them. What are some
Kind
things that
of.
okay, they're really addicted to them. What are some things that may help them get their posture corrected? So, well, maybe not 100%, but maybe improve it.
Well, yeah, that's a great question. First of foremost, I would say just bringing the phone to your face and not your face to the phone. That's like the biggest thing because most people are just down at their phone or down at their computers or anything like that. And so the first thing that I would say is have the device, whatever you're using, if it's a computer, set it to where it's basically level with your eye view. So you're not having to look down or look up at it. It can just be nice and in front of you, and you don't have to have a lot of head movement essentially. And with the phones, just bring the phone to your face. That's the best answer I can give. I mean, to the solution, that's the best thing I can do because it's your posture is still gonna be affected by multiple other things, but just taking the time to say, okay, let me bring my phone to my face instead of going down and looking at my phone. And let's see. Another thing that I would say is, I just lost it.
That's okay. It'll come back. Don't worry. You know, one thing I was thinking of too, I recently got one of those fancy walking pads for my house, and it has handles on it, so I'm safe. And then it has a place where I can put a phone or some sort of device. But as I was looking at that today, it's down again, lower than eye level. So I'm like, I really don't want to do that. I might have to like put a shelf up higher on the wall or something so I'm looking straight on, so I'm not putting impingements in my spine when I'm walking. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
I mean, it just came to me because of that. But that's like, even if you got to look down a couple of times, I don't think that's as bad as just lying there static for like hours on end. But I know I actually bought my mom an iPad stand, and I recommend it for anybody that's doing posture alignment therapy or lying on the ground and having to look at the TV and lie on the ground at the same time. Get an iPad stand, and you can like have your devices above your head or basically have it anywhere. Like for you, it would be you can even have some of your devices while you're walking. You can have your device right in front of you, and you can even work if you needed to or do some things like that. So um, I think an iPad stand is actually severely underrated, and people should get it just to take out because your hand gets tired. You bring the phone to your face, hand gets tired, or you're on your bed and on the computer or something like that, um, you need something that just takes away the hands out of it and also allows you to just comfortably sit there. So, yeah, I think an iPad stand and bringing your phone to your face or having any type of computer or laptop at eye level is some of the best ways to avoid ruining or furthering the posture destruction.
It's so true. Well, in even just using the devices in general, we're using our hands in a different way than we ever did. Holding the phone or the device puts restrictions probably all the way up through the elbow and the shoulder because it's heavy. And even when you get a new phone, it might be just a couple ounces heavier than the last one, just a minute amount, but it can cause shoulder pain and other issues. And the same when you're typing. Some people have the ability to type with two hands, others don't. I would imagine all those things contribute to posture imperfections.
Mm. Yeah, precisely. And another thing, and Dr. Reese had a video on it where he was just showing the example of how, like, the further you have your head bent down, it can get up to 60 pounds of pressure. So, no, your head is not 60 pounds, but just having your head bent over and looking down can build up a pressure of about 60 pounds. And so that's pretty significant. Um, and it's just a simple fix, though. It's a simple fix. Be mindful of what your head position is when you're looking down at something, or how long you're looking down at something, or just use supportive devices that can help mitigate that.
Thank you for that. I'm having some technical difficulties with my video today. I'll try to resolve those, but in the meantime, I wanted to pop back over to Coach Ryan and ask him. He brought up earlier that junk food, processed foods, really have an impact on people's health and well-being when it comes to asthma. Other than the obvious processed foods, are there other foods that cause more problems with asthma, Ryan?
Well, remember that whatever causes a digestion problem can cause many other food sensitivities. So the most common ones, or the most likely ones to us, is going to be gluten. Dairy's on that list as well. But once you have messed up guts in any way, you can now become sensitive to a whole bunch of different foods, because now you're not breaking down foods properly, and those whole food particles can get into the blood without being broken up first. That's the whole problem here with these food sensitivities and food allergies, is that you're getting whole proteins ending up in the blood where they're not supposed to. They're supposed to be broken up first and then absorbed. And so when you get whole food particles in the blood, the body's supposed to respond with an immune reaction. And the result of this is inflammation. And this is basically what they're doing when they're giving you steroids for asthma, is they're just trying to bring down the inflammation, whereas they're never telling you about the source of the inflammation. And so once again, the most likely ones are going to be the glutens. Dairy is also quite likely, but again, once the digestion system is messed up, it could be literally anything, and not even a bad food, just that your digestion's not working correctly. So whole food proteins are getting into the blood, the body's reacting to that, and inflammation is created in the process.
Thank you for that. That's amazing. I wish I would have known that as a kid, or my parents, because we would do, I mean, if there was, I was allergic to mold, I was allergic to pollens, all kinds of things, foods, everything, every little thing. But the answers were different back then. It didn't get the results I needed. However, what's amazing now is now that I have the right nutrition, getting off the poor four foods, doing the posture therapy, doing the mindfulness work, I don't have that asthmatic issue. I don't have the asthmatic issues like I used to. I don't have the allergies like I did before. They just kind of slipped away. There are a couple items that are triggers that induce some sort of breathing issues still, but it's not as predominant as before. Was that the same for you, Ryan?
I have no symptoms at all anymore, and have not in many years. And we have many people who just, it's completely gone. They don't think about it ever. Doesn't affect them at all anymore. So it's completely reversible.
That's awesome. What about triggers like smoke or cold temperatures? What's your
Well, that's
perspective on that?
the mainstream has been all about this, right? You've got family history and you've got environmental triggers, both of which kind of obfuscate the role of the individual in taking care of their own body to prevent or reverse these problems, right? Because if you blame genes or so-called environmental triggers, then you're kind of out of luck, right? That doesn't tell you at all anything that you can do to improve your ability to withstand environmental triggers. So yes, smoke is a trigger, pollen's a trigger, dust, wood chips, and fiberglass, anything that's floating around in the air that's small, particulate matter, can irritate your lungs for sure. But our lungs are supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be hardy. We are supposed to be able to withstand a normal amount of environmental pollution, so to speak. Because keep in mind, it's not just like car exhaust and camping fires and cigarette smokes and stuff like that. This world is full of particulate stuff floating around, right? It's not just dust in our homes. There's everywhere, all the time, constantly. If you're outdoors, indoors, there's particles floating around you. That's the normal state of the world, right? For us and for all the animals that inhabit this world as well. You know how rare asthma is in animals? They have to go to lengths with studies to actually induce asthma in them. And with us, it's just that we're so weak that we're walking around that anything can basically be a trigger. Literally any particulate matter. There's nothing special about a dust particle, that makes it an antagonist. It's just a small particle. And any small particle can irritate you, especially if you're already weak. If your soft tissues are already weak, if your immune system's already weak, and if you're already going through stress, your body is already inflamed, any of that is just going to provoke it even further. But that's not the cause. It's a cop-out. It's not at all the cause. It's not even close to the cause.
So the cause is more nutritional deficiencies or something different?
The cause is a weak body. And both Sean and Gingy said things that are backed up by studies, especially the stress aspect of it. Stress has been known to worsen all autoimmune conditions and asthma. There's a lot of things that even mainstream science has found. Even Google, you type it into Google. Sometimes I like to see what Google says. I said nutrient deficiencies that can cause asthma, and Google said vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin E, magnesium, and iron. These have all been linked in one way or another. I came up with my own list before we jumped on here using my archives, and I found studies on B6, vitamin C, bioflavonoids, calcium, magnesium, manganese, essential fatty acids, NAC, which is not technically an essential nutrient because you make it yourself from the amino acid cysteine. Similarly, glutathione, it's another thing that you make yourself, but studies have found that people who have asthma are low in glutathione, and glutathione helps them. Even disaccharide insufficiency, long word there, it's an enzyme that you need to digest disaccharides. And if you have intestinal inflammation, once again, small intestine inflammation, you're going to have a disaccharide insufficiency. That itself has been linked to asthma. Adrenal insufficiency, there's your stress, right? Chronic stress, adrenal fatigue, they might call it chronic fatigue, causing asthma, leading to asthma, exacerbating asthma. Formaldehyde, which is a chemical commonly found in our clothes, right? They put it in clothes, they put it in carpets, they put it in furniture. That new car smell probably has formaldehyde in it. Dirty electricity has been found to cause and exacerbate EMF, dirty electricity being the hodgepodge of frequencies that are fed back into the grid because of the crazy way that we designed our system here, where our devices that are plugged in feed back into the grid and create dirty electricity, and that has created asthma. Inflammation in general, strongly associated. Food allergies, should star that one and bold it and highlight it. And multiple other things have been shown to help as well that are not even directly essential nutrients, things like cordyceps mushrooms and hydrogen peroxide and ozone therapy. But this is such a long list here. So deficiency in any of those nutrients, can weaken you, and any of those extra stresses, like just literally psychological stress itself or any environmental stress, all this weakens the body even further. And that includes things like dirty electricity and formaldehyde. And I'm sure it's a much longer list. That was only what I cobbled together in about 10 minutes before we got on here.
That's amazing that you were able to pull all that together in 10 minutes. Incredible. What about with pets? And I know somebody that she ended up reversing her allergy to dogs, which was pretty amazing. What's your opinion on that as far as pets, cats, dander? Looks like Gingy might have a comment on this one too. Gingy, do you want to start?
Sure. I just wanted to say that I was having a conversation with somebody about this earlier this week, and she was like, "Yeah, my all my allergy symptoms went away mostly when I did carnivore, but then I didn't feel very good, and I went back on eating some other stuff, and then all my allergies started coming back. There's something about the plants." And I was like, "Okay, well, what were you eating on carnivore?" She's like, "Well, just meat basically, and eggs, and animal products." I'm like, "Well, you pretty much got off of all the oils that cause inflammation. You got off of the bad grains that cause inflammation." I was like, "You got off a whole lot of, and processed foods, you got off a whole lot of stuff that causes inflammation and exaggerates the digestive problem and the inflammatory response, which, I would say if your body's already inflamed and you give it one other thing for your immune system to respond to, it's just going to inflame a little bit more." Like what people generally don't understand is what inflammation is. People say you're inflamed, I have chronic inflammation, inflammation leads to this, this, and this. But when I ask people what is inflammation, they don't have an answer. So, in general, inflammation is just an immune response to either a pathogen or an injury. And so, if you have inflammation on a chronic basis, it's because your body is constantly launching an immune response to something. And if it's not an injury, then there's something in the blood. There's something in the body that shouldn't be there. And as Ryan was talking about, that can happen when your digestive system is all messed up. You get whole proteins and whole fat molecules and undigested food that gets inside the bloodstream. And then guess what? Your immune system is going to inflame and launch an attack to try to remove the particles that shouldn't be there. So this chronic state of inflammation, if that's always there, then of course a little pollen is going to send you over the edge. A little bit of this and a little bit of that's going to throw you over the edge. And when this woman got off of the inflammatory foods, all of a sudden she saw an alleviation of a lot of her symptoms. Now, that's not addressing the underlying cause. She's not repairing the digestive system. She's just ceasing the poking of the wound, if you will. The wound hasn't healed yet. She stopped exaggerating it. And so I think it's important for people to get their minds around this of what asthma is, what allergies are, all these insensitivities is just your body being in an immune response state, inflammation, and you're giving it one more thing that puts it over the edge. So if you were to stay over the edge, then you have real problems. But what usually happens is the body is incredibly capable of adapting. So the body will adapt, and then once it gets pushed and triggered and pushed over the edge again, then it has a full-blown symptomatic response. So I wanted to add that because I think not only was that enlightening for this woman I was talking to before, but I think it's also important for other people to understand what inflammation is and where all this stuff comes from. Because Ryan just listed a ton of things. Like there's a whole lot of stuff that can cause inflammation, and just all those deficiencies, problematic foods. But what is it that those things are all triggering and what is going on in the body? It's just your body trying to respond with its immune system. That's all inflammation is. Inflammation is a good thing.
Thank you for that. Well, and I would imagine too, once the body is inflamed in one area, it can transfer to other areas too, and it could be a compounding effect. Like Coach Ryan was talking about earlier, a lot of times it's in the intestinal lining that's inflamed, and once that gets inflamed, it can be very catastrophic long term if it's not repaired. Ryan, would you mind touching on that, the importance of healing the gut and getting the gut happy again?
Well, yeah, if you don't heal the gut, then you're probably not going to heal just how it is. This is why we start almost everyone with a gut rescue program, digestion protocol for the first month at least. Some people need more than 1 month to fix their guts. A lot of people don't even think they have a gut problem, but you should assume that you do, at least that it could use some support, at least up front, to ensure proper absorption or better absorption at least. And yeah, there's lots of people who try to fool the system or who try to think, oh, all these nutrients, they have all these benefits. Well, I'll just take these nutrients and not change my lifestyle, right? And it usually just doesn't work. Sometimes it does, especially with structural problems. It's much more likely to work. But when you're talking about a metabolic problem, which is anything to do with your body's digestion system, hormonal system, inflammation system, it's almost everything is a metabolic problem. Some things are strictly structural, like osteoporosis in many cases. But for the most part, most people have not just one metabolic problem, but multiple. And they're going to need to get off the bad foods, or they're going to keep having that problem. And, it's the free thing. It's weird because it takes more effort to quit bad foods than it does to take supplements. Supplements are very easy. It takes you like 10 seconds to do it. You just swallow them and you move on with your life. It takes more commitment and more knowledge and, being steadfast when you're at restaurants and stuff to avoid the bad foods, but it's completely free. And yet that's the part that a lot of people have a problem with, is getting off those bad foods. Again, they want to do everything else. They want to go to the gym and buy all the stuff that they could need to help them with their health, but they don't want to put in the actual work. Many people, I'm not saying everyone, but many people, they don't want to do the free thing that is absolutely crucial for most people to fix themselves. It's just to get off of processed foods. You don't even need to know all the details about it. You don't need to go to school for this or be a food scientist. Just stop eating processed foods, and chances are your lungs will improve. Sleep, hormones, weight, mood, you name it. It's probably going to improve just by getting off of processed foods.
That is so true. For those of you that are watching, if you have any questions for our panel of specialists, please drop a note in the chat and we'll be happy to answer those for you. A couple questions that have come in. Claudia is asking, I have some sun damage on my forehead, small red spots. What can I eat nutritionally to help with this? Ryan?
Eggs. Get off the bad foods so that you can absorb the fatty nutrients, right? All of these nutrients that we just mentioned with lungs, it's the same as your skin. They're both soft tissues. They're both fatty tissues. Soft tissues are largely made up of fatty tissues. So you need to be able to absorb those properly. So you want to 100% make sure that you're off the bad foods. And we would use all 90 essential nutrients in our program, which is not just what your skin needs, it's every tissue in your body. But again, skin needs basically the same nutrients that your organs need, including your lungs. Eggs have a good spread of them. The only nutrient that eggs are missing is the vitamin C, because the chicken makes its own vitamin C. And if there's any one food that I would put above all the rest for soft tissue type of problems, it's going to be eggs and liver. Eating liver 1 to 3 times per week. Just a serving that's large enough to fill you up. You don't need to overthink it.
Wow, thank you
Real
for
liver, not desiccated liver supplements.
Okay, real liver. What about liverwurst?
Liverwurst is made from liver.
Okay, there you have it. So for those of you that are watching and curious about head to toe healing and if it's something for you, the best place to start is to go to drkevinreese.com. We have a ton of information there, a lot of educational videos as well as testimonials for you to get more information. You may want to start with books though. This is a great one to start with, the red book and then also the green book. These two are the best place to start. So that way you can understand head to toe healing to see if it's for you. And then after you've had a chance to read those, reach out to us. There goes the video again. Let's see if I can get it to start back up. There we go. Once you have a chance to read those and get started, reach out to us on the website, drkevinreese.com, and hit that start page button. And you can book a call with us and we can get you more information about your specifics and what you're dealing with. But in the meantime, let's get back to our questions or comments. Helena says, I began to feel numbness on my hands, so I did get a tripod, just like you had recommended, Coach Sean. It's adjustable up and down and all around, so she studies, watches videos without injuring her hands. So nice job, Helena. That's great. Another question we have here is from Nancy. This is going to be directed over at Coach Ryan. She says, I was recently diagnosed with high cholesterol, prescribed Lipitor, but it's due to cognitive impairment side effect. So I do refuse to take it. What is your view on berberine?
Okay, well, good choice not using the Lipitor. That's a statin. That's one of the worst things that you could ever possibly do. Nobody should ever, in my opinion, take a statin drug for any reason, and any doctor that prescribes them should be put in jail. Berberine is fine. Berberine's a compound that's in many different herbs. It's not a vitamin. It does help. It can help with a bunch of different things. Would it help with your cholesterol? I mean, maybe, but you got to get off the processed foods. You need all 90 essential nutrients for your entire metabolism to work properly. High cholesterol is a metabolic problem. Cholesterol is produced in your liver. The liver is producing more cholesterol for a reason. It's not just by accident. There's a reason that it's doing it. And this is why, if you go on a low cholesterol diet, it barely even changes your cholesterol level. It might go down a little bit, but the doctor will still want statin drugs. In fact, this is why they use statin drugs, because they know diets don't work very well. Why? Because if you are still experiencing inflammation and damage on the inside, cholesterol is anti-inflammatory. It's alkaline, and it's like a putty that the body can use to go and patch things up, right? This is how cholesterol plaque forms. The cholesterol didn't cause it. The cholesterol has been deployed to go and patch up the drywall in the veins. So I'm saying that the reason that doctors use statin drugs is because diets don't work very well, because the body's not stupid. And if there's still inflammation there, the body's going to continue to release more cholesterol. It's going to make more cholesterol. Almost every cell in the body can make cholesterol, but the liver makes most of it. And yeah, it's doing it for a reason. So you have to eliminate that reason. Almost certainly it's from processed foods and nutrient deficiencies. And in the case of cholesterol, I can't even list the nutrients involved because it's going to be like 40 of them that could cause the metabolic dysfunction that would be associated with the elevated cholesterol. So I could say very simply that we've seen many, many people lower their cholesterol. The very first step is getting off the bad foods completely and being serious about that as a permanent habit. And we need to take all 90 essential nutrients to have a properly functioning metabolism. I can't name them all or recommend them all to you here because it's impractical to go out and buy them all separately. It doesn't work that way. We do work with a company. It's the only company in the world that even tries to put all 90 essential nutrients into a couple of products, 2 to 3 products, to make it simple for people and cost effective for people. And if the only thing that you do right now is the free stuff, then take that to heart, get off of the bad foods, eat real foods.
And with that, Coach Ryan, a lot of times we have brand new people listening to us each week. What are those bad foods? Would you go through them in detail, please?
I will, but let me clarify something here too, because I just said that diets themselves don't work very well for cholesterol. So you might be thinking, well, what are you talking about then? Aren't you talking about a diet? Well, no, not really, because all diets have holes in them. And even like Gingy was saying earlier with the carnivore person that got rid of some inflammation, it's because they got rid of processed foods. A vegan diet will do that too if it's a whole food vegan diet. But we're not recommending either of those diets because they both have serious nutritional holes in them. But just the fact alone that they got off of the processed foods, for the most part, that benefits almost everyone in some way, and it may lead to a decrease in cholesterol. But it's probably not going to be permanent, and you're probably still going to have some other metabolic dysfunction. The reason we talk about the poor 4 foods is because those will be the primary sources of inflammation for most people, which is gluten, oil, fried, and fake. The poor 4: gluten, oil, fried, and fake. And each one of those causes inflammation in a slightly different way. And remember that inflammation is one of the main factors behind asthma, not just asthma, all chronic disease, inflammation is involved with. So when you get off the poor 4, you remove the major sources of inflammation, and we didn't put any other restrictions on you, right? We're not saying that you have to only eat animal foods or you have to only eat plant foods. It's not that tight. It's just getting off of the main sources of inflammation. So you're still left over with an omnivorous diet. And as long as it's whole foods and you're not burning your foods and doing stuff like that, you're going to be getting a decent spread of nutrients that should help your metabolism overall. But I would just want everyone to remember that the reason that we use supplements, one of the main reasons that we use it, well, I guess there's 2 huge reasons. One, you can't get enough minerals in your food no matter what you eat. That's another discussion. But 2 is that we tend to need much higher doses of nutrients to heal than we do to maintain. So even though you'll be getting a decent spread of nutrients in an omnivorous diet that's whole food based and you're off of the bad foods, still chances are you need 10 times, maybe 100 times, maybe 1,000 times more of certain nutrients for a while than you could possibly get in your food supply. And we don't give out protocols here on these lives because we do this by individuals. We need to know who you are, what's going on, what are your other symptoms, what's your body weight, what country do you live in. There's all kinds of information that we need to be able to come up with a supplement routine for you that's going to make sense. And we need to be able to pivot if something unexpected happens. Maybe the body reacts poorly to the initial ones, and we need to change it. So we're not giving out those types of protocols, but if you do want that from us, of course, you can book a call with Coach Karen or another one of the coaches and get into the program, and we can do that for you. But other than that, stay off of the poor for gluten, oil, fried and fake, and everybody should do that no matter what, even if you don't have any health problems. Be consistent with that. Eat whole foods otherwise, and keep reading and watching for more information on other tips that you could do for free without joining the membership.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. I'm going to pop back over to Coach Sean. I was talking with somebody earlier this week, and they were experiencing a lot of imbalances in their body and a foot drop. Is there anything posture alignment therapy can do to help correct something like that?
Yeah, of course. And mainly any type of issue, like anybody that comes to me with a specific condition or a specific pain in a certain area, I always say, like, that's good that you came and we put a name to it, but forget that. Leave all of that at the door, because that's not going to help. Rather, it's going to make things more complicated the more we know, because you're going to want to address the foot issue. Or if it's a knee pain, you're going to try to, like, what knee exercises do you have? And it doesn't work like that, because it's always a mantra I always say is very rarely is the site of the pain ever the source. And I just keep repeating that because it can be confusing at first, because it's like, why wouldn't you just work on the area that is in pain? That's my body saying that something is wrong in that area. But it's always due to like a domino effect. In fact, it's kind of the same way we address any type of nutritional issue. We don't really focus on the symptoms that much. We go back and try to figure out what is causing the symptoms, what's causing the inflammation, and address that instead. And so yes, we can correct it, but we need to look at the posture. We need to see what imbalances are leading up to this dysfunction, and then address it from there.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. We had another question here in the chat. This is directed over to Ryan. What is the best way to detox heavy metals? Any opinion on that, Ryan?
Over time, by getting off the bad foods, taking all 90 essential nutrients, your body is going to work better, and you're going to be able to clear heavy metals out of the body. It just takes time. Several nutrients by themselves are basically chelators, which can remove heavy metals like vitamin C, selenium, sulfur, and more. And those are all part of the essential nutrients. We take them anyways. So your body should be doing this all the time. This is what annoys me a lot about the detox conversation and the detox content that's out there, is that a lot of influencers are putting it like, you need this specific compound or this formula or this tincture, you need this specific thing in order to detox, when that's completely a lie. Your body is always detoxing. Your body's a detox machine. That's one of its primary jobs. So taking some of these substances can help speed that up, but I think a lot of people are missing the point that by working on your health in general, right? What other symptoms do you have? This is why we go by a symptom score. What else is going on? We want to see the sleep improve, the weight improve, the mood improve, the skin, eyes, whatever it is. We want to see all those things improved. And that means the body itself is getting healthier. As the body gets healthier, you don't need to even measure this. It will get better at detoxing without doing anything specific. And we do have some protocols that could speed that up, like a liver flush or some mega doses of certain nutrients, such as vitamin C. But, if they want to go even faster and harder and more expensive, then we're talking about IV chelation with EDTA or another, chemical chelator. And that works quite well. If you had full-blown lead poisoning or something, that would be the protocol. I would use vitamins and minerals and all that stuff too. I would use herbs as well and some of those detox formulas as well. But it would be IV chelation that would be the primary thing to bring down the metal count significantly and as fast as possible.
Thank you for that.
Which
But
is
in
not
fact,
always available in America, by the way. Like, unless you're actually dying of like lead poisoning right now, they probably will refuse to even talk about it in the American medical system. You might have to go to Mexico or Thailand or something. It's medical tourism. This is one of the big things that people travel out of country to do, is to get chelation therapy.
thank you for that. Another question for you, Ryan. Let me just see if I can get my video to work again. Okay, it says my brother has had a stent put in and the doctors has him on cholesterol pills and baby aspirin. If he doesn't take them, will he die? Is that true?
No, that's scare tactics by the medical mafia. It's pretty typical of what they'll say to people. If you don't do this, you will die. That's a lie. It's basically extortion. Those doctors should be put in jail for giving him statin drugs, in my opinion. Once again, so no, it's not true at all. I mean, he's got a stint in, so he's got blockages. That's a serious problem. But statin drugs will do absolutely nothing to help the situation. I said earlier, the plaque is not caused by cholesterol. Cholesterol is the result of the inflammation, right? And the plaque is also the result of it. So they're attacking the symptom, not the cause, right? The tumor is not the cause of the cancer; it's the result of the cancer. Doctors go after the tumor and they lose the plot. They never even look for the root cause. So in this case, they're blaming cholesterol by association there, but cholesterol didn't cause the plaque. Inflammation did. So statin does absolutely nothing about cholesterol. It just causes liver stress and forces your liver to produce less cholesterol. But like I said, almost every cell in your body can produce cholesterol. So it will bring it down, but it'll never get to zero, and you wouldn't want that anyways because you'd be dead. And aspirin has nothing to do with this. So you're basically using it as a blood thinner. Your body needs several essential nutrients in order to have proper blood viscosity, including calcium, magnesium, vitamin K2, which it seems everybody knows about today, and several others. So clearly, this man, has multiple nutrient deficiencies. He had that to begin with. The medical mafia monopoly did nothing to help him with his nutrient deficiencies, probably didn't say a single word to him about nutrition at all. Put him on statin drugs, which does nothing about the root cause of the problem. Also give him aspirin, which does nothing about the root cause of the problem and causes stomach and intestinal problems with long-term use. And I guarantee they told him to take that aspirin every single day for the rest of his life, which is a guarantee that it will cause gastrointestinal issues. And this is criminal. Yeah, these doctors should be put in jail. None of that is true. Your brother, anybody can heal themselves naturally. It will take time to do it, but taking drugs that attack the symptoms don't do anything about the cause.
Thank you for that candid response. I appreciate that. I wanted to pop over to Coach Gingy. Some things that Brian brought up were fear tactics. Fear tactics with the other system that's out there that most people go to, their primary doctor. How would one deal with that on a mindfulness perspective? How can they cope when they've got some chronic illnesses that they're trying to turn around, but they're given these fear tactics?
That is such a good question because everybody deals with this at some point. I remember at one point I had a candida issue, and I went into a doctor's office, and he was a wart expert, and he's like, "It looks like a wart." I went to this other person who was an STD expert. She's like, "So it looks like an STD." I was like, to every single one of these people, it looks different, and because I was trained in worldview and mindset and all this mindfulness stuff, I was able to actually hear beyond what they were saying. And that gave me such a power in those situations to hear that it's their opinion, it's not a medical fact. It's not well researched. This is your own, like they're not fortune tellers. They can't tell you at what point in the future you're going to die. And they often try to. They're like, "Well, you got about 6 months to live." And it's like, how on earth could you possibly know that in exactly 6 months, give or take, I'm going to cease to be living? You can't. It's reckless, and it's funny because they all have this deep understanding of the placebo effect. That's why we do double blind and triple blind studies and things like this, because we're trying to mitigate the impact of the placebo effect or the nocebo effect on our research. And so when you get into the doctor's office and they tell you you're going to die, or they tell you you're hopeless, or they tell you something like this, they're literally planting that idea in your mind and causing a placebo reaction for the vast majority. And we know the placebo effect is not absolutely 100% guaranteed in every study with every person, but it's not zero. Like it is a significant amount such that we cater all of our research to it. We don't just say, oh, well, we allow for 2% error. No, we do double blind, triple blind, peer reviewed, independently reproduced type of studies because of this. So the way that I was able to manage this, and especially working with my mom, who had all kinds of, they're like, well, yep, you're going to die if you don't get a liver transplant. And then she'd come, call me sobbing, being like, the doctor says I'm going to die. I have 2 weeks to live. And I'm like, okay, forget all of that. Try not to get stressed out because the stress is only going to make things worse. Worrying about a problem gives you two problems. You have one problem, and now you have the worry about the problem. That's two problems. So, what you want to do is you want to eliminate the stress, relax, and understand that all this person said is that they don't have a solution. And they actually have fancy terminology for this. So, if you start looking at the definition of medical language, like an idiopathic disease, idiopathic basically is translated into layman's terms as we don't know the cause. So, anytime you hear, like, oh, you have an idiopathic blah, 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 it's you have a condition that we don't know the origin of. Okay, so go find somebody who knows the underlying root cause. And once you do know the underlying root cause of what you're dealing with, then find somebody who's got a solution and try it out. And this is what basically you've got two roads in front of you, and this is what we're left with today. You can either go the route of these people who have no idea what they're doing for long-term chronic conditions, or like they're going to do drugs, tests, and surgeries, like Ryan always says. Those are the three things they have. And I would add on, they also have radiation. They have a couple other things in there that they have in their arsenal, but none of them address the underlying root cause. But if you understand that, easy peasy, now you can go find someone who does see root cause issues. Like if you came into the head to toe healing program, we would tell you, oh, it might be a mindfulness root cause. Oh, you're doing good work over there? Okay, well, it might be posture root cause. Oh, well, it might be nutritional root cause. It might be an element of all three, which is why this program is so effective because we get to multiple different angles in the underlying root issue of whatever is going on for your ailments, your symptoms, whatever's going on. So the fear is going to limit your ability to heal, and it's a choice. It's not required. You don't have to be afraid of cancer to heal from cancer. So you can omit that and continue to work towards a solution. If a doctor tells you you're terminal, don't hear I'm going to die. Translate that in your mind to he doesn't have an answer for me. And continue digging and digging until you find someone who says, oh no, I've turned around plenty of cases like that. I could help you out. I could at least help you make some progress, or I can give you some information. That allows you to actually search for somebody with a solution as opposed to somebody who's just is a dead end. And that's where all the fear comes from. People think the medical monopoly, the medical system has all the answers and they're the pinnacle of research and understanding in health in general. But as Ryan would probably tell you, the average doctor lives like 20 years less than the average couch potato. On average, like medical doctors do not have the same longevity as a regular American. And this type of information should at least help you restructure the way that you think about disease and about healthcare and about what's available to you because taking an aspirin every day for the rest of your life is not going to solve the problem. It's like putting a band-aid over an infection. It'll just stop it from getting maybe more dirt in the infection or something. So you really want to alleviate the fear, realize that's not helping, look at what they're saying. I have a solution or I don't have a solution, and continue moving forward with optimism until you actually find a solution that works. Take your progress, celebrate your progress, and continue moving and finding people who are also making progress. Like inside the community, we have hundreds of people that are making progress every day. It's astounding to see what's just happening with a little mindfulness work, a little posture work, and a little nutrition. It's not even that complicated.
That's
And
fantastic.
if on
Thank you
one
for
other
sharing.
thing, it actually is overcomplicated, usually in the medical monopoly side. You try to understand even the language that they use, and it's like, what is hepatic encephalopathy even mean? Like you have to go through and look up the legal definitions of these things and be like, oh, yeah, okay. What is an idiopathic disease? Oh, yeah, okay.
Thank you for sharing that, Gingy. And that's what I love about Dr. Kevin Reese's Head to Toe Healing program is we look at the whole body. It's not about zooming into one little thing. It's about addressing all the symptoms that you bring to the table. And when you start addressing the whole body, the symptoms start to drop off. We hear success stories every single week about people that are having amazing success. So if that's something that's interesting to you and you want to get more information, go to drkevinreese.com, check out the educational videos, look at the testimonials that are there, and hit the start button and book an appointment with us. We would love to chat with you, talk to you about your specific situation and how head to toe healing might be best for you. Additionally, make sure you get yourself a copy of these couple of these books so that way you can get started. The red book and the green book, these are great places to start. So that way you have a foundation of what head to toe healing is about. It'll answer a ton of questions. But we do have a couple more questions in our comments right now. Jimmy's asking, I have a 15-year-old daughter. This will be directed at Ryan. She has several warts on her hand. The doctor has frozen them, but they keep coming back. How can I get rid of them?
She has an immune deficiency, clearly. And of course, they're going to keep coming back because you didn't. It's a perfect example of why you don't, treat the symptom because the symptom's just going to come right back in most cases if you don't fix the root cause. In her case, she certainly has an immune deficiency here. So she's going to need all 90 essential nutrients. And of course, we would start by getting her off of all the bad foods. And you can do that right now. Get off the poor four foods. I understand teenagers may not want to be that cooperative, but I'll tell you one thing: if she has warts, she has other symptoms too, and some of those may be the type of things she doesn't tell her dad.
That makes a lot of sense.
So if you're looking for ways to get leverage on teenagers, right, it's maybe not the wart itself, but it's all the things that could be associated with it, right? No, and I like to use kid languages, and forgive me if this sounds crude, but I'll talk to kids. I'll say, "You don't want to be fat and stupid, do you?" I say, "No, I don't want to be fat and stupid. No, I don't want warts. No, right?" Just use very basic languages. The kids are not politically correct here, right? If you're looking for leverage for them, again, the wart, they may care about the wart if they really do, but if not, look for the other things that they may be having a problem with. And again, on the immune side thing here, since so many of those immune nutrients are also needed in your hormones, I'm going to expect that she has some hormonal problems and some menstrual problems, a bunch of other things.
Thank you for addressing that. I wanted to hop back over to Coach Sean. I was talking with somebody earlier this week that has tinnitus, ringing in the ears. Is that something posture can help with?
Absolutely. That's one of the symptoms that Dr. Reese lists as above the shoulder symptoms. And so usually when people experience that, they note three different conditions. The first condition is the shoulders are rounded forward. So you can test that just by going against the wall. And without forcing it, see if your shoulders touch the wall. And then see if your head touches the wall. That's the second one, a forward head, cervical flexion. And then a rounded back. So that's thoracic flexion. If those, either one or all three of those conditions are met, then that would lead to the answer of why they have above the shoulder symptoms. So tinnitus is one of those. Dizziness, vertigo, ringing in the ears, all of that can be contributed or produced by above the shoulder symptoms. And so we're just addressing in the same way, but much like what we were talking about in the beginning of the class, sitting and hunching over and looking down at your phone or down at your computer, those things can exacerbate that issue or directly cause it because we do it like hours on end, without getting up and walking around. So not only just, taking some of the advice that we spoke on in the beginning, like bringing the phone to the face or having the devices at eye level, getting an iPad stand, a stand of some sort. But you also want to just find parts of the day, even set a timer. for every hour. Just get up, do something, walk around, stretch, however stretch you can kind of freestyle it, but find time to reverse some of that damage that you're doing. You know, it should be no reason why you're just sitting down an hour straight. You can get up and do something. Find time to do some type of activity, even if it's going up to get some water. Get up, you know, walk around.
Thank you for that. Thanks for sharing. We had a couple other questions here I want to address before we close for the day. Gina's asking, will Dr. Reese head to toe healing help me with my high blood pressure? Ryan?
High blood pressure is one of the most common things that people come in with. Once again, it's in the metabolic category, so they tend to have also blood sugar, blood cholesterol, weight, mood, energy problems, right? All metabolic things. This the blood pressure is part of the metabolic syndrome, they say. So yeah, absolutely, we can help with it. Head to toe healing can help with it. All three of the modalities here: nutrition, posture, and mindfulness, all come into play with high blood pressure.
Thank you for that. Laura's asking, she said, my doctor asked me to wean, or I asked my doctor to wean myself off of the cholesterol medication. He ignored me. What a jerk, she says. What do you think? She wants to get off her cholesterol medication.
There's no benefit to weaning. There's no point to weaning. I can't give you medical advice, by the way. I can't tell you whether to take a drug or not, so don't construe this as that. I can say if it were me, I would understand that there's no benefit to weaning. There's no reason to wean. If you Google it, they'll tell you, you say risks of getting off a statin drug. Well, there's no withdrawal concerns. For many drugs there is, antidepressants and even most blood pressure pills and stuff like that. You don't want to drop them cold turkey. It's not as safe. But for statin drugs, there are no withdrawal concerns. Don't believe me, Google it. Read the mainstream medical centers. They all say the same thing. The only risk is that your cholesterol will go up again. And if the drug is the only thing keeping your cholesterol down, then yes, that's correct. It will go back up again. If you don't do anything to change it, it will go back to where it was. Yes. And so they'll say, oh, it increases your risk of cardiovascular disease. That's an inference, and that's not true, and it's never been true. They've known this since the 50s. They've just been caught in this crazy situation where they have to blame cholesterol for everything. But nonetheless, mainstream medicine, everyone recognizes that the only thing that's going to happen is your cholesterol is going to go up if you don't change the conditions that led to the high cholesterol in the first place. And even if you had high cholesterol, it's not an immediately troublesome thing. It's a sign that the metabolism's not working correctly to me, but it's not going to kill you. That's kind of the heart of the debate here, is that mainstream medicine keeps saying that high cholesterol is going to kill you. Meanwhile, they have no proof of that. They have no proof of that. Low cholesterol can kill you just as easily. In many studies, the people with the highest cholesterol live the longest and have the least amount of heart attacks and stuff. So it's definitely not as clear as they're making it out to be. That's the threat that they'll offer. If you stop it, you might have a heart attack. Well, that's bogus. But your cholesterol will go up if you don't give it a reason not to.
We've got a couple people in the chat saying, I've been losing hair daily by the handfuls. I'm told it's just normal for menopause. No treatment. She's refusing any treatment. Is there anything you can suggest, Ryan, that would help with hair loss?
Getting on the program, getting off all bad foods, getting on all 90 essential nutrients, and especially extra iodine, which I'm not going to give you a dose or anything. Sometimes I've spoken about doses and then people just go out and randomly do it. And one of the interesting things that can happen when you start taking iodine is you start losing more hair up front. Wouldn't want you to panic about that, just letting you know. But when we do it with all 90 essential nutrients and we do the gut rescue first, then it tends to minimize any types of those weird things that can happen on high doses of iodine. And it's not just iodine. All the nutrients mentioned for the skin and the lungs are also needed for the hair, and many more that we didn't mention. There's tons of them. And if you do have a hormonal menopausal type of problem, then you have multiple nutrient deficiencies off the bat already. Because menopause is not supposed to be an event. It's supposed to be a light switch. It just stops. Not supposed to be any hot flashes or anything. Historically, that was never an issue. And even in many countries today, the hot flashes are far less prevalent than they are in the West. So the the presence of these symptoms in the first place already says for sure you have multiple nutrient deficiencies, and we would need several months to sort that out. It's not going to happen overnight. Several months. We would look at all the other symptoms that you have coming into it to know where we would focus our efforts.
Thank you for that. And for those ladies having the hair loss issue, I had some hair loss issues too before I found Dr. Kevin Reese, and I don't have that anymore. My hair grows in really quickly. It seems like I have to go to the hairdresser constantly now. It's thicker, fuller, and much healthier. So getting on the nutrition, doing the program makes a huge difference. So go to drkevinreese.com, check out our educational videos, look at the testimonials, go to the start page, get the books, start with the red and the green book. For starters, get yourself educated about head to toe healing and how we address the whole body. And to start turning your life around. We would love to see you in the membership. Reach out to us if we can be of any help, and we will meet you right back here next week, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday for the next Head to Toe Healing Live. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Stay healthy.